What is the Qcto and why should employers care?
Right, so the Qcto, Quality Council for Trade and Occupation, they are basically in charge of developing and accrediting and overseeing the qualifications and making sure that, first of all, that the service providers are measured at a very high standard, because that's very important. So the standard has to be maintained. So training providers have to meet the standards, and they have to make sure that those qualifications are aligned to the position that person holds. So for example, if you look at your sector education and training authorities, your CETAs, they focus on the sector. Qcto focus on industry. So it's not just a generic qualification that you're doing, it's aimed specifically at the job that you're in, the position you hold.
So it focuses on teaching for that job role and function. It's KPI aligned and it's task specific, and that's what I love about the Qcto.
Yeah, you always know what you're doing, and for participants it's important because whatever I am doing, it aligns with my day-to-day tasks, which makes sense.
Absolutely. How is the Qcto qualification different to the CETA qualifications?
So remember, your CETAs are specific to a sector. Qcto is on the industry. So if you are doing a Qcto qualification, for example, CETA focuses on knowledge and a bit of practical. Qcto's focus is on not your knowledge, your practical, as well as your workplace experience. And that's very important. So if I can take an example of the project management qualification that we run, you've got your knowledge component, we've got the practical component, and in the practical component, we use case studies for them to complete the practical part. But when it comes to the workplace, they have to physically be working on a project that they are managing.
Yeah, and I love that. It's the fact that workplace experience is a live assignment, so to speak, and a live project that needs to be completed. What I love is that anyone can really, enroll for this qualification with no previous experience, and at the end, they can do that job. And that's the whole thing about Qcto, is how do we get people upskilled and employable immediately.
But also on top of that, is the fact that when you are doing a qualification, where you're doing the knowledge, the practical, when you do the workplace experience, a lot of people have years of experience in project management. Again, another example of the qualification. They don't know the name of what they are doing. They just know that they've been doing it. By now doing the practical, the knowledge, and then the workplace experience, like, oh, I've been doing this for the longest time. I never knew that it was called this. So it's that enlightenment.
I know.
Yeah.
Love it.
I think it's also important to mention when we look at Qcto qualifications versus the legacy qualifications. With legacy qualifications, you did your assignments, you submitted for assessment. But with Qcto, if you are doing, for example, a skills program, you have to write your final integrated summative assessment. When you're doing a full qualification, you have to write the ESA exam, your external integrated summative assessment, which I think there's a bit of confusion at the moment. FISA, ESA, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? But yeah, with your skills programs, your FISA is compulsory, but with your full qualifications, they have to be ESA ready.
And I love that. I love the fact that it's almost gone back to the traditional way of education. So we are testing theory, we're testing practical, we're testing your workplace readiness in your workplace experience component, but then you're writing an exam as well, right?
Exactly.
Just to kind of cement all that learning. So
but
I love that.
I also think the confidence for the people that have written the exam, when you get your pass, look at our groups that just completed the ESA. They knew they could do it. They are doing it, but somehow psychologically haven't written that exam, passed it, getting your results, you feel, I've got this.
Absolutely. Do Qcto qualifications replace learnerships?
Yes, they do. So with Qcto qualifications and learnerships, again, a very strong emphasis on workplace experience, applying what you are doing in the workplace.
What's in it for employers?
Look, when a company runs training, it's always focused on what's in it for us. And what's in it for them here is, first of all, that workplace readiness. The people that are participating in these qualifications are actually workplace ready. They can go in and work. It's not, I now have the skills in terms of knowledge, but I don't know how to practically apply it in my day-to-day job. So they are workplace ready from day one with QCTO. Second thing is industry relevance. So again, you've got your sector-specific experts that participate in putting these qualifications together. So it is very specific, and it's based on current workplace demands. So what is currently needed in the workplace, and with that, the added benefit that it is also taking into consideration technological advancements, AI.
And I think we must just add there, from a BEE compliance perspective, if you're running these qualifications as a learnership, it falls within the skills development categories, and you can claim it on your scorecard.
Absolutely, yes.
So it works really well. So how do QCTO qualifications benefit employees?
So QCTO qualifications, we know, are nationally recognized. And as a service provider, for example, Leverage Leadership has to go through a very strict verification process. Our training material, our processes, our quality assurance management, all of that gets checked during that monitoring visit. When the program rolls out, they come for a 50% verification visit where they track, are we still on track? Monitoring visit. Are we still on track to successfully complete? So for the participants, nationally recognized, and for us as a service provider, they know they're getting the quality education that they deserve.
Absolutely.
And also career advancement.
So that's my favorite, is that you can have someone come in at entry level, learn something completely new, and be able to work in that position immediately. And there are those career pathways that they can choose horizontally and vertically.
Exactly, and that ties in with your practical experience. It's on the job, so you can actually do what you've learned.
So it's on the job learning.
Yep.
And I think that's what other qualifications, didn't provide the space for.
Exactly. Just on that, what is very important to know is we both have children that are at varsity, and a lot of times graduates complete their degree. They get this beautiful degree with the graduation ceremony. They enter the place of work. They know what they are doing and they know why they are doing it, but they don't know the how.
The how.
So they're kind of lost when they go into the world of work, where they've got all this knowledge. They know what they need to do, but they don't actually know how to do it. And that's where the workplace readiness is really important. So another question that I know is really on everyone's lips at the moment is, can you customize QCTO qualifications for your business?
No, you cannot. So the content in those qualifications is, if it's nationally aligned and standardized, one can think that the content is prescribed or prescriptive.
So like with SAQA?
The same with SAQA. It needs to be aligned to certain outcomes. So your knowledge modules, your practical modules, your workplace experience, it's what it is. It's prescribed. You have to follow that certain process. The customizing comes in. What Leverage does is where we take that content and we integrate the knowledge, the business units, processes, objectives, etc., into that qualification, so that our delivery of that qualification and the message and the teaching is actually speaking to the client's industry and workplace culture. So it can be customized from the service provider's perspective, but not the actual qualification cannot be customized.
All right, so you can basically customize, but the customization, you either have service providers that will train it off the shelf as you get the qualification, or
Or you customize at a granular level, which is what leverage does. So yes, you can take that qualification, you can train it as is, or you can take it and integrate the client's culture into that qualification, which I think is really important, and that's what leverage does. We take the time to do that because we really want lift and shift, in the organisation.
Is that where you would say we do a deep dive into the culture of the organisation?
Absolutely. So we spend a lot of time with the client, and I think that's important.
Yes, very. Would you say QCTO training is complicated or hard to implement?
No, not at all. I know when I started Leverage and I applied for the 2 qualifications on my own before you came on board and the business grew to the point that it has, it was quite easy for me to understand what the knowledge components, the practical components and the workplace components were. So I think once you understand how to unpack that qualification, what the rules, the mandates, the quality kind of touch points are for the QCTO in unpacking that qualification, really you train it like you would any other qualification. So I don't think it's hard to implement at all. Additionally, from leverage aside, because we are so well versed in these qualifications, we've been doing them for the last 5 years. So, our support structure, our processes are so fluid at the moment that we just work quite seamlessly with those qualifications.
So I suppose we could say it's not complicated. It's more just the process of understanding.
Yeah, it's just learning.
It's learning.
It's just learning a new process, and I think there is resistance because it's different to say loading with the Qcto or qualification. Yeah. So it's just a different process.
I suppose it's just getting used to the change. Change is hard.
Absolutely, yeah.
It is hard.
It's uncomfortable. Yeah.
So will QCTO compliance affect funding or grants?
No, not at all. You will still receive your funding, you will still receive your grants because QCTO qualifications are in alignment with the National Skills Development Plan and or strategy. The requirement is to have that QCTO accreditation or qualification and enrollment thereof in order to access the Qcto grants.
Okay, so I suppose that compliance comes in with accredited service providers, timeous uploads.
Absolutely, your work skills plan, absolutely. So the minute you've put the intention out there, I want to do this training for the next financial year, you're allowed to apply for your grant. So it's the same thing.
Okay, so your annual training reports, workplace skills, same thing.
It's just a different regulatory body, that's all.
Okay.
That's all.
So Nadia, we've clarified now how compliance affects funding or grants, but can you just clarify tax rebates?
Same process as before. So you still get your funding, you can still claim for your tax rebates. Nothing has changed. So it continues on that same pathway.
Okay, thank you. What would you say the risk would be of ignoring the QCTO shift?
There's a lot of risk, but before I speak about the risk, I really feel that I need to acknowledge all the clients. I know that the new training landscape of South Africa is scary. I know that people are fearful of the QCTO because they don't know how it works, and I'm very mindful of that fear. So ignoring the QCTO shift means your scorecard is affected, your company, the employees, the people who make your business successful are being ignored, right? Because they're not being upskilled. Funding is not being received. There's no movement, there's no growth, there's no energy in the business. That's the risk.
And do you think it could also affect, the fact that the workforce will lack that nationally recognized skills that they require?
Absolutely. I mean, the whole thing of the QCTO is we have put qualifications together to train people at all levels. Right? Okay. From entry level up and sideways, so that we have a country where our workforce is well-skilled and multi-skilled, because we want to build a better South Africa. So again, as much as I understand, and I do, that there's a lot of fear, but if we kind of put our head in the sand about this, you know, we're also not developing our own people.
So to remain competitive and to remain credible.
Absolutely, and I think to remain ahead of the times because
yeah.
these qualifications, not only are they relevant to the industry, but they're also relevant to I suppose the modern advancements of the world today.
Yeah.
So if there is a company who wants to, you know, dip their feet in the water with Qcto, so to speak, what do they do? What's their first step?
Your first step would be to partner with Leverage. I'm going to be biased there because we've done the work.
What we're doing.
Yeah, we know what we're doing, but it's important that whoever you partner with is accredited. They've gone through the process. They understand from start to finish the admin involved, the managing of the programs and the projects, ensuring you remain compliant. Remember, with Qcto, compliance is key, and they are very strict with that. So you have to partner with someone that understands compliance, understands the regulations involved, and make sure that when we provide or when they provide that training, they run the project from start to end without any hiccups so that your team can exit successfully.
And I think, and I really want to add in there, again, to my earlier point, is Leverage really understands the fear about moving into the Qcto space. And we really hold your hand as a client and partner with you to make this an easy process and not a fearful journey of, you know, I almost want to say of ignorance, but I don't mean it in a negative manner. But, you know, we fear what we don't know. So we hold info sessions for our clients, for potential clients, anyone who's interested. Come have a chat with us and we will upskill you in terms of Qcto.
So what we're basically saying is you don't need the confidence. We have it.
We have it for you.
Yes.
Exactly.